G'day gamers, just going to be quickly updating you guys on my build for my Summoner Necro. We're going to quickly go through the changes. We're going to go through some gear upgrades that I've got. So we've gone from a lot of legendary, sacred to ancestral. So in this video, we've got a lot more ancestral gear. We're a lot more world tier 4 ready in our build. We're being able to do a lot more world tier 4 content. As you can see here, I'm now officially level 75, so that's huge. We've been able to do a lot of world tier 4 content, including a lot of nightmare dungeons. There are some people that still think for some reason that the Necro is really bad. This build is really bad, and for some reason you can't do this, that, or the other. World tier 4 content's actually pretty good. When enemies are my level in the open world stuff, open world's super easy in my opinion. Most of the time I could even just sit there and drink my coffee. But when it comes to nightmare dungeons, obviously we have to try a little bit harder. Now, with the last video, you'll see a lot of stuff has changed, including my cosmetics. My cosmetics are 10 out of 10. We're going to go through the ancestral upgrades. So we've got the helmet now has been upgraded to ancestral. The aspect, as far as I'm aware from the last video, should be exactly the same. It's a little bit stronger, but it's still the same aspect. I cannot express enough to you guys how regeneration without being hit and also life on kill is super good in this build for both speed content and push content. Having at least one life on kill is really good, and life regeneration is good for saving potions as well. Obviously, you get a lot of potions, that's not a big deal, but if you get eviscerated by some crazy elites or too many packs and affixes, and when they hit you too often, sometimes the extra life while not in combat can save you a little bit, especially when you're a Necromancer. Not being damaged recently happens sometimes pretty frequently if your minions tank stuff, so regeneration, at least one of those at some point in the gear, having one of that's not bad at all, especially if you have problems with potions or if you just want to save your potions for the harder stuff. You can. I also can't recommend life on kill enough as well. At least one of those roles in your build. I was messing with the idea that I actually put life on kill in my weapon the other day, and while it was okay, it wasn't quite enough for it to be noticeable. But thankfully I got a roll. I got this upgrade yesterday on the stream, so now life on kill is good. Now why that's actually good is minions actually proc life on kill. Every time they kill something, you also get life on kill. What that makes it extra better with the paragon board that we're going through, we're also getting additional willpower. So we're actually getting just under 42% additional healing. So instead of being 77 life on kill, it's more like 100 life on kill. It's actually super good. Every time your minion even kills a mob, you get 100 extra life. Really handy, as well as the life regeneration. So obviously we got maximum life on there and willpower. Willpower is good for the paragon board, as I'm sure most of you know by now, but maximum life's also good for survivability. World tier 4 and nightmare dungeons content can be really difficult. I actually recommend getting some maximum life in your builds. The more health, the better. Obviously, the further you are away from death, the easier the content's going to be. We got our chest upgraded. Unfortunately, lightning and shadow resistance is super not needed in my current setup. Some resistances are good, but I have too much lightning and shadow. I'm sure some of you know, but just in case you don't, in the defensive tree you obviously got elemental resistances such as this. They get capped out pretty hard. Even though it says I have 55.9, the damage reduction is actually only 28% or just under 28%. But if you actually go through my build, I have 56.4 lightning res in the chest alone, and that's already dropped off. I also have lightning res in boots, all resistance across the board. I have all resistance in the amulet as well as the gems in each of the rings. Also have lightning resistance here. So it's well over 100% lightning resistance, but it gets capped out even from just the chest piece alone. You get diminishing returns. Whenever you get gear, try not to overlap too much of resistances. It's a complete wasted stat. So unfortunately, lightning and shadow in this is not great. But the bone skill damage is super good for our bone spear, and the maximum life is also super great. Up to 1,000 health just from one roll on one piece of gear is incredible. Considering I have just over 5k, that's a big number. So I recommend getting maximum life in your builds as well, which goes well with life on kill and life regeneration because you have a lot more health to build up on. We got ancestral gloves now, so we got actually 4 ranks in bone spear. Now that makes our bone spear rank 9 out of 5. 153% weapon damage is really good, even though we're a minion build and our minions do all the damage. It's still super nice to sometimes have a specific target you want to hit, and you're able to actually hit it with the bone spear. So actually, if you can, there's not many rolls in gloves that you super want anyway, so ranks in bone spear is actually pretty good. And of course, willpower, dex, good for the paragon board, and crit strike chance. I kept accidentally getting crit strike chance in my build, but it's actually turned out pretty well. So if you can, try and get some crit rolls as well, because your minions benefit a little bit. It's not a lot. I've said this before. I wouldn't get crit chance to try and make your minions do crits, but you getting crit is super good, and I'll explain to you why with a change that we've actually made super recently. So I'll get into that in a second. Our pants got upgraded a little bit. Got damage reduction to close and injured, good, and obviously intelligence, dexterity, also good. You can never go wrong with having attributes, especially intelligence, because you will do more damage from that. As well as obviously armor across the board. The aspects haven't changed. We still got blizzard. We still got the vulnerability AoE. We still got barrier. We go down to the boots now. The boots For me, I haven't upgraded those yet, but I do want to talk about them really quickly as far as roles are concerned. The primary role that you want on boots, in my opinion, is max evade charges. If you're looking for specific things, movement speed on boots, I think are really good to go for. And is whenever you get boots, if you don't have max evade charges, as far as I'm concerned, this is just my opinion, I don't even think they're worth using. If you don't have additional evades, your game becomes that much harder, but that's just my take. We've got some stats on there, the movement speed, and obviously the aspect has not changed. That's still going to be warriors. We get onto the weapon. You guys have seen in my previous video, most of you have already seen this, but for those of you who haven't seen the previous video, intelligence is good, vulnerable is good, and slows is good. We almost always need those on the weapons. As long as you get those 3 roles, the weapon's good. Any other thing you get in there, a bonus is whatever, is nice. Damage to injured is not ideal. I'd rather some other stuff, but that's obviously not bad. It's still some damage. For those of you who don't know, damage to injured is an injured enemy classes under 35% health. So when you're down to essentially 1/3 on big bosses, you're going to be doing 75% more. So obviously, big number, sounds cool. But me personally, I'd probably rather another stat on there, but at least it's not wasted, so that's not bad. We go over to our amulet. Our amulet hasn't changed for quite some time, but I did want to talk quickly about, again, movement speed in amulets. I think is also super necessary to go for. Definitely go for movement speed in those, because that's now 15% there. We've got 15% there. That's 30% increased movement speed. When you start getting Ancestral Boots and Ancestral Amulet, you can actually get up to even more, like 40-50% movement speed from those rolls. So I recommend that, just moving that much faster. Movement speed is obviously a nice quality of life. You get from point A to point B faster, but you can't take away from moving faster in combat. Can sometimes help you do more damage, get in position better. It can also help you evade affixes much easier, especially with up to, you know, the Ancestral stuff getting much stronger. You're going to movement speed is going to be even further increased. So I definitely can't recommend movement speed enough in both boots and amulet. Try for those. Again, our aspect hasn't changed in that. That's exactly the same. Pretty sure I've had this ring from the last video, so this has not changed at all. As far as what I want on it, if I could for this, I'd like to replace damage to close to damage to vulnerable, because vulnerable is mostly our damage in this build, and for some reason I just haven't got a good ring. Slow's good, and crit is still super good, and the aspect on that, again, hasn't changed. At this ring, I actually got this last night on the stream, which is super good. We got damage to slowed and vulnerable, the 2 roles that we wanted on rings, and as well as crit chance, which is also something we wanted. Even though I said in the last video, getting crit chance is bad or not that great, because we're a minion build, and minions, as far as I'm aware, only get 30% of your crit chance, so it's very little. But and again, I'll get into why I'm actually going for crit chance now in just a moment. So these is good, and the aspect on this hasn't changed. And maximum essence, as far as I'm concerned, is a completely garbage stat, and I wish I didn't have it. But everything else in this ring is good enough that it's okay. We'll get a better one at some point. So those are the gear changes as well as the gem changes. Pretty sure on my last build I had damage reduction more fortified, although I still stand by that, and I think it's really good. But because we're actually trying to stack a little bit more health, I actually think % maximum life, if you are aiming for extra life rolls on your gear, which I can't stress enough in World Tier 4 and Nightmare content, the higher your health is, the better. I think extra health and extra % health is actually better for you, because it keeps you alive. And as far as I'm aware, your minions also, I'm not sure if this is true, but I think your minions actually get 30% of your health as well. So the more health you have, the more health they should have as well. But I'm not sure about that one, so don't quote me on it. And the gems and the weapon and the jewelry haven't changed either. We got crit damage to vulnerable, as also resist to all elements. I don't think you can change those. I think they're necessary. If you're doing vulnerable, you should get crit damage to vulnerable, and I think you should almost always have resist to all elements in the jewelry. I haven't even looked at the other ones, I'm going to be honest. This just seems like best in slot jewelry. The gear and the gems, done. We're going to go to the skill variations. So now I'll get into why the crit chance was actually a super good idea. So in the previous builds, we were actually doing a lot of this. We had a 15% chance to flash out additional corpses through the Reaper, so that was super good. We used that for essence generating, as well as buffing the minions. Obviously the corpse does that for us, which is super nice. We did play a little bit with a different idea of doing this one, because we were generating so much essence through the cold mages, as well as consuming a corpse. We almost had too much essence and too many corpses. So last night I played with this idea a little bit. So whenever they hit a slowed or vulnerable enemy, their cooldown of their powerful wind-up attack gets reduced. I like the idea. To be honest, I don't even know if I've ever seen Reapers do this wind-up attack. I don't know if it's good. I couldn't tell you. It might be super OP. I might just not be noticing it. But I feel like this upgrade is not super great. I didn't notice a difference, and I did try to pay attention to their attacks. So this might be good, but me personally, I don't recommend it. What's really changed from our last build is we're actually now using Skirmishers Upgrade 2. Instead of worrying about extra corpses, we're now got Skirmishers, which do increased damage and have reduced life. Now, a lot of people watching this will probably say reduced life, that's bad, minions die too quickly. I'm telling you now, with the paragons and changes we've made to the build very recently, my minions now have 50% damage reduction. They also have 10% minion armor and almost 10% warrior armor. They've got 20% armor, and they also have 50% damage reduction, as well as me heal. Every time there's a corpse and you use Raise Skeleton on that corpse, you also give them 10% from the skill and 60% from this passive. So you're giving them 70% life every 5 seconds, along with the possible additional health that you're giving them. I think that this one is super good because we obviously want minions to do more damage, and the survivability is enough that the reduced life isn't actually noticeable at all. I ran a couple dungeons with this last night. This is just still at some point, to some level, I'm still experimenting with this. I still don't swear by this. I'm still experimenting with it. If you guys think that your minions are tank enough and you feel like you want to output a little bit more damage, go for these minions. But the main factor is the upgrade number 2. I'll go back to my stats, and I was talking about crit chance a lot. I actually, at the moment, I have 37% crit chance and 121% crit damage, which are big numbers. For a build that we initially started out as vulnerable and slow, crit chance and crit damage was something I never even considered, but I kept getting crit rolls, so I thought I'll actually go for it. And why that is so strong is each time you critically strike, your Skirmishers Warrior's next attack critically strikes also. So every time I hit a crit, which is a very high chance of 37%, every fight I'm always casting multiple Bone Spears, sometimes 10 Bone Spears on a group of enemies to hit the AoE and the vulnerable. It's very likely I'll hit a couple crits, and whenever I do, all 6 of my warriors also get a guaranteed crit, as well as additional crit damage bonus. Now, this only happens every 3 seconds, but to be honest, 3 seconds is a very low number for this cooldown to proc, considering they're always swinging and doing attacks anyway. So as long as I hit a crit every 3 seconds, they'll also did crit. 6 of them will get a guaranteed crit with additional crit damage. I actually think this is super strong because we no longer have as much essence generating problem in this build as I did before, and I'll go into that because we made a big change in our paragon board. We're going to get into that. We're going to deep dive into that a little bit. We no longer need as much essence, so we got rid of the Reaper corpses. Now for the Skirmishers upgrade 2. Give that a shot. I think you guys might like it. But the Cold Mages, we haven't changed. I experimented a little bit with this last night. I was experimenting with upgrade 2 for the Cold Mages. And upgrade 2 is actually pretty cool. So for anyone that's frozen or hit by a primary attack while they're frozen and made vulnerable for 4 seconds. As most of you know, having vulnerable applied and hitting vulnerable enemies is super good. So I thought, hell, maybe this is really good. And I'm not going to lie, I actually think this upgrade is good. Have a different playstyle than me and you never actually have an issue with having essence. I actually think this is still a pretty good upgrade. But me personally, the way I play, the amount of essence I use, the amount that I actually like to spam Bone Spear and make sure I'm doing as much damage as possible, I still think this is better. The 6 mages attacking simultaneously, especially with all the attack speed bonuses we get, the amount of essence they give you is actually huge. And I think, me personally, for my playstyle, that essence gain is super necessary. So we're still doing with that, but we have made big changes to our golem. So some of you may know that I actually, in my last paragon board, I actually tried to go to the golem paragon board. So I've been playing around with a little bit of different options with the golem, especially because a gentleman mentioned getting the upgrade 1 blood golem, which gives us damage reduction. Now, for those of you that are just getting into higher tier content, so if you go into world tier 3 or 4, you find yourself struggling a little bit, this is a very easy choice to choose just to get yourself a little bit more damage reduction. I recommend that if you find yourself dying, just put this on and you get 15% damage reduction. Is actually a big number. It's super easy and you don't lose too much because the essence gaining from the bone golem, to be honest, was good, and for me at that time was super needed. But for now, because we're getting more essence generations, which I'll get into in a second, this one's super good for just starting out. Once we get further into the golem paragon board, I actually will be running this one. So the paragon board, for those of you who don't know, it's called Hulking Monstrosity. I'll quickly go over to it for you. We'll eventually be getting this. So your golem has increased maximum life and increased damage. I'm going to be over here getting golem damage. We're going to be over here getting golem damage. We're going to be going over here getting golem damage, right? So it seemed like a no-brainer that while healthy, he gets more damage reduction and more damage. As far as I'm concerned, it's 50% multiplier increased damage here, and in the Hulking Monstrosity build, it's a 40% increased multiplier increased damage there as well. So I thought, heck, once I get further into that board, I'll put this on. He'll even hit harder. I haven't tested these numbers yet. I've seen my golem before I even got this upgrade 2 and Hulking Monstrosity upgrade. He has crit for 44k. So with some of these upgrades, he may hit well in the 100,000s just on his own. Every time he swings his big ass hands around, he probably hit for hundreds of thousands, but I haven't tested it, so don't quote me on that. What I have been doing super recently, there's a lot of synergy going on with this. I recently switched to Iron Golem. So he's the one that does the ground slams. So you obviously tell him to cast a certain spot on the map and he'll go slam that ground for you. Why I think that's super strong is we have this one. I talked about this in my last video as a possibility, but I've been experimenting with it. I actually think this is super, super strong. A multitude of reasons. Number one, obviously he runs straight to where you said to go. So sometimes he can come, if you're getting in danger, you're getting CC'd too much, you're a bit surrounded, you can press just underneath you, he'll come slam down right underneath you, and he'll actually stun everything around you. So it gives you a few seconds to get out of it, but he'll also apply a vulnerability, which was this. He'll stun them, stop them in their tracks, they can't move, they can't attack, and they'll also get the vulnerability procced on them. So the damage numbers you can hit on them is super huge. And I'll go into additionally why that's even stronger than what it just sounds from that alone, but we also have the control glyph socket in the beginning board of the paragon node. So we do increased damage to crowd control enemies, which by the way is an additive number. It's a big number and it's going to get even higher, especially once I upgrade this to a radius increase and it'll get even bigger, it'll get a higher percentage. But damage to crowd control enemies is added to the additive pool. So like damage to slow and things like that, this goes into that. 34% is a big number, but it's not as huge as it may seem. The main reason we get this is because of the bonus. You and your minions do 10% times increased damage to slow or shield. So we obviously slow with Decrepify, and the cold mages apply shield, so you almost always have this 10% up. But we also do 20% times multiplier to increase, and we originally use this for frozen because sometimes the cold mages, after applying stacks of chill, eventually enemies get frozen, which is obviously good because they're stationary. Hitting them is super easy and they do more damage to them. But now with the Iron Golem, we can also get the stun proc from this. So not only do we have our Iron Golem being able to come to an area and AoE stun an area, they apply vulnerable, but then they also apply the additional damage with the control node. So it's a 20% multiplier as well. So vulnerable, slowed, stunned, the percentages you can do on enemies when you hit all of these in unison is incredible. You just apply Decrepify in an area, get your golem to come stun them, so then you've got your slow damage, your vulnerable damage, and then this stun damage, damage to controlled enemies. Because they're also stunned, they're much easier to hit. It's so much easier to absolutely go to town on them. Sometimes minions will all target one enemy and they'll just disappear. They'll just absolutely get melted. It's absolutely beautiful to watch. And I have to say, as far as fun factor is concerned, getting your golem to slam an area has been the most fun out of every skill the Necromancer has, and that's saying a lot coming from a minion guy. I absolutely loved it. So there goes, as far as skill variations are concerned. There's obviously a few other options there, but those are the ones we've been experimenting with, and I'm sticking with everything I've just shown you here. For those of you, again, who haven't seen my last couple of videos, I stream Diablo 4 every single day over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/EpicSapien. Come check me out. I stream every single day. We're going to keep progressing. We're going to get the minion build to level 100, and I'm going to try and prove to everyone that it's actually good, and I still have yet to hit a wall with this build. Even at level 75, I did Nightmare dungeons last night with enemies all the way up to level 84, and we're still getting through the content pretty easily. I still have yet to fail a Nightmare dungeon. I was pretty close last night. I had one more revive left, but we still got it done. I've still yet to fail one. Let's get into the Paragon board. So I try not to make this video too long. So for those of you who are new to Diablo or new to me, unfortunately, everything I'm about to say might be a little bit confusing for you, but I have got a couple previous videos. So check out my couple videos before this. They'll go into it a little bit more detail. But this is just going to be a video to update those who already know that stuff. So if you're new to the channel and you're new to this, I wouldn't bother listening to this part, to be honest, because it's not going to make much sense to you. We've gone through control already in this video, but we've also gone through Dead Razor before in my previous videos. As I'm sure you guys know, I now have the increased radius on it. It now does 24.5% damage reduction and 26.6% minion damage, as well as whenever you and your minions deal damage to an enemy, they take 1% increased damage from you and your minions, up to 12% multiplier for 10 seconds. Super easy to have that 12%, and obviously the damage reductions and minion damage is super, super key for these minions being as strong as they are. And the reason for that is obviously Paragon nodes within range gain 76% bonus to their minion damage and damage reduction modifiers. And so that those numbers at the top of the glyph is just the bonuses that these are getting. So it's 35.2 there, 8.8 there, and 8.8 there minion damage. And the reason we have 50% damage reduction on minions is obviously for this node over here. Damage reduction to minions, damage reduction to minions. It keeps them alive and well. So Dead Razor glyph, Now that I've got the full radius upgrade, this is the full benefit. You can keep upgrading this, apparently. It can keep going even higher, so up to 80%, 84%. But the XP you need from the Nightmare dungeons, you're able to do at this tier. It might not be worth the grind, but that I'll leave that, guys, up to you. That's just the update for what we got. So you'll notice up here, we obviously had the golem board, which we're just getting into. But there's something I really wanted to talk to you guys about. We talked about health on kill, and now I went through the boards last night. I did some deep diving into my paragon boards. On the bone spear board, there was one node that I'd never noticed before. It's actually essence on kill. That almost sounds too powerful, right? That can't be true. That can't be true. I went through, and I also get +1/+1. Because of this node, we're actually able to get all essence on kill. I don't know if you guys seen my builds before. I'm an essence fiend. I use a lot, so I want a lot. But because we have essence on kill, we're able to obviously remove the corpses from our bone golem, and we're able to remove corpses from our reapers. The extra corpses was used for damage on minions, healing the minions, but specifically for generating additional essence. The cold minions we were giving us a decent amount, but from how I play, it wasn't enough. But I've recently found this in the paragon board, and I can't recommend this enough to you guys, because minions also proc essence on kill. Every single time your skirmisher, your mage, or your golem will kill an enemy, that will give you 4 essence. So they'll kill an enemy, and the enemy will drop a corpse. And because we have a passive node, Grim Harvest, as I'm sure most of you are aware this exists, you generate 6 essence consuming a corpse. The minions get a kill, they give you 4 for the kill, and then you get 6 for the corpse. You're getting 10 essence per kill. On top of every time a mage attacks, they give you 2 essence, and you also generate 3 essence per second. So with all of that combined, our skirmishers are doing more damage. The golem is giving us more protection, as well as proccing more damage because of the stun, vulnerable and slow, as well as him being a badass. And as far as I'm concerned, the iron golem looks cooler. Look at this guy, he's an absolute unit. The legendary node for this tree is Bone Graft. This might be good, this might not be good. I'm actually not here for the legendary node. I'm literally only in this entire board purely for essence on kill. We might go over here and get some resistances or bone skill damage, critical strike damage with bone skill, which are pretty good because we have some crit chance. But I'm purely in this entire board just for the essence on kill. Obviously, as you can see here, I don't meet the requirements because this is my 4th board. I have board 1, which we start with, board 2, which I made the minion ones, and then board 3 was my golem one, which I actually did get some of these upgrades last night, and the numbers were pretty good on the golem. But I respect a bunch of points. I went over here and got essence on kill. So I really recommend trying essence on kill. Even if you want to just do this first and do the golem thing later. The only reason I don't recommend having the golem as your 4th board is the later the boards get in the paragon nodes, the more stats you'll need. And at some point, we aren't going to get more stats. I'm not going to get more nodes in this. I might get more nodes in this at some point in the future, but I don't care for them. So the higher, willpower and dexterity requirements aren't really my concern. Even the maximum essence bonus on this, I really do not care for. I don't think maximum essence is that good of a stat. It's purely the essence on kill. So I still recommend, if you want to follow my build, the 3rd board you do after your minion board is the golem board. Because we're going to go through this soon. I'm obviously going to play a lot more Nightmare Dungeons tonight after this video goes up. And we're going to make this a lot better, and the golem's going to hit like an absolute truck. But essence on kill, super huge. Definitely give that a shot, guys. If you have any essence problems, that is just insanity. I can't express to you enough how I think that node should be It should be more accessible across the board. You should be able to roll it on some items. There might even just be a unique to give you more essence. I think this node might be a little bit too strong, to be honest. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. That's just an updated build guide. The changes we've made got a lot stronger. Our gear got upgraded. Our skills got a bit upgraded. I've been experimenting with those skills a little bit. I recommend giving them a shot if you've been following this guide. The only other thing I want to talk about, there's an item that we're looking forward to getting at some point. This here is the Ring of Mandeln. While you have 7 or more minions, you gain up to 10% chance to empower all your minions, causing the next attacks from each of them to explode up to 17,914 damage. I have not got this ring in game. A gentleman in my last video actually commented. I apologize for pronouncing this if I pronounced it wrong. But Juan Pablo Foment actually mentioned just a question, but why not using the Ring of Mandeln? Now, just to give you guys just a quick idea, Bone Spear has a 50% chance to do a lucky hit. If you lucky hit, there's a 10% chance for this to trigger. Sounds like a super low number, but you got to consider this ring can have lucky hit chance. Other rings can have lucky hit chance. So you can have 2 rings. This is up to 6% at non-upgrades. Once it's upgraded, it might even go up to 9-10%. So you might be able to get, let's say, 10% lucky hit from one ancestral ring, 10% from another ancestral ring, and even gloves can get it. I've seen ancestral gloves, the max roll without upgrades seems to go up to 12%. With upgrades, that might even go up to 15%. So you might be able to have 20 and then 15, just 35%. So your Bone Spear will then have an 85% lucky hit chance. And then every time you get a lucky hit, it's still only 10%. But whenever this procs, our minions will do almost 18k. And at the moment we have 13 minions. We have 6 warriors, we have 6 mages, and a golem. That's 13 times 18,000. Just under 250,000 damage. Just from this ring's affix alone. And that's an AoE thing, which as some of you guys will know, sometimes this build has a problem with AoE. This ring, I haven't got it yet. I haven't tested it. This is just a complete possibility. So shout out to that gentleman. Shout out to Juan for mentioning that. If I get this, as far as where I'd place it, I don't think the Army of the Dead affix is replaceable. I think I'll keep that, but I will replace this one. 42% attack speed. I think the 250,000 damage proc is going to be better than this attack speed. But that's just a speculation because I didn't even know that ring existed. That's going to be it for the video. That's just, I wanted to quickly update. Thank you guys so much for watching the last 2 videos, by the way. The support, the views on that have been absolutely incredible. I've even been getting extra followers and stuff on Twitch, and I can only assume some of you have been coming from the YouTube for that. So thank you for that. Appreciate you guys. Much love to you all. Thank you for, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you have any questions for this, feel free to comment down below. But also, as I mentioned before, twitch.tv/EpicSapien. I'm streaming Diablo 4 every single day. If you have questions, you want to talk to me live, come chat with me, even just give me shit for wearing what appears to be a pajama top every time I upload a video, come into the stream and do so. Much love, guys. Have a good day. Take care of yourselves.